Viper of Olivier Beretta and Philippe Gache. The Justin Bell Mark Duos Viper qualified third in that class. We've got 16 911 GT2 Paul McLaren. Ahead of him, it's John Nielsen in the Gulf McLaren as they go down to the first corner. The McLaren's moving across to the right, and look at that Lotus locking up. That's Giroir's Lotus locking up, and Hans Stuck giving a little nerf to Gary Ailes, who fights at the wheel, manages to keep the car straight. Hans Stuck moving ahead of him in that wide Porsche just ahead. And that's Luca Badoa's Lotus going all wrong over the curves of the Vidal chicane. The car landing with a tremendous thump. Another Lotus in trouble. That's Sandy Grau in the Taiwanese entered tyre. The Porsche being lapped is on the racing line. Both McLarens have to go offline where it's very slippery. Look at Peter Cox sawing away at the wheel as he tries to keep the car pointing in the right direction, tries to keep the door shut on Jean-Marc Gounon. Now, this is Justin Bell, lying third in GT2 in the Viper. He's battling with the British entrant Jeff Mr. John Greasley in 911, going right over the curbs at the chicane himself, and that's not going to do these cars any good if they keep running over the curbs. The Porsche managing to stay just out of touch of the Viper. We see it again. Now, look at this Viper taking off right up and bangs down once more. That must have done some damage, I would have thought, to the underneath of that car. Meanwhile, look at this battle for third place, Mercedes versus McLaren. That's a little GT2 Porsche spinning just in front of the black Dams panels, which has to take enormous avoiding action. That's Eric Bernard in the black panels, entered by the French team. But meanwhile, goes the Gulf McLaren now. Justin Bell keeping well out of the way, goes over the curves once more. He's going to have to be careful not to get more damage. That's a little GT2 Porsche spinning just in front of the black Dams panels, which has to take enormous avoiding action. That's Eric Bernard in the black panels, entered by the French team. But meanwhile, the yellow mirrors on that Mercedes say that that's the leader. The leading GT1 car has just lapped the leading GT2 McLaren off the road. That's Andrew Gilbert-Scott. Andrew Gilbert-Scott parking his Gulf McLaren. Can't see what the problem is. Has there been an accident? Has there been contact? We're going to see a replay. Over the curbs goes the McLaren and clouts. That Lotus hits it very hard. The Lotus and the McLaren, I suspect, are both now going to be out of the race. The Lotus is Luca Badoa's, and yes, that is a very sorry sight. Luca Badoa out of the race, Andrew Gilbert-Scott out of the race, and Hans Stuck in trouble. That's the Hans Stuck Porsche GT1, moving very slowly indeed as the... very tiring to drive this front-engine car with the driver wrapped around with the exhaust manifolding. In gets James Weaver. And that's one of the McLaren spinning. Peter Cox has a spin. Peter Cox swaps ends as Gounon goes on his way. And down in the pits, let's hear from Andy Wallace.
For some reason we had fluid leaking from the right rear wheel. And so I had to come in, change the caliper, I believe they did. Bled all the brakes. Obviously, when you do that in a hurry, you don't get all the air out. So it's fine now, it works, but it's a little bit spongy.
How would you like to race the Paynos round the Nürburgring with a spongy brake pedal? That's the other Paynos in the pits. That's the Brabham McCarthy car being worked on. And we're getting a replay. It's a Mercedes. It's the third place Mercedes. Bernd Maylander in the Klaus Ludwig car. And he's off for the chicane. The car is spinning in the air across the gravel. And it's in the barriers. Oh, a big accident for Bernd Maylander. That's the third place Mercedes out of the race. The Mercedes mechanics get the news. It's off the race. The Mercedes mechanics get the news. It's not going to be a Mercedes 1-2-3 today. Whatever happens, it's still Mercedes 1-2. Here's Bernd Schneider through the back markers. Schneider off. Schneider elbowed onto the grass there by one of the GT2 Porsches, flashing his headlights. The car doesn't seem to be damaged. That was a nasty moment for him. We've got Bob Wallach rejoining in the GT1 Porsche. But meanwhile, Andrew Gilbert-Scott's made his way back to the pits. Let's hear the story of Andrew's retirement in the McLaren.
It's disappointing because they're going well, and the Lotus was retiring. It's going down the hill and had its indicator on the right indicator, indicating that it was obviously either in trouble or retiring. And a lot of the GT2 cars and everything was overtaking it into the chicane. I imagine it was doing in the region of 40 to 60 kilometres. I came down the hill at 260, and I turned into the chicane, and the Lotus went through the chicane, which obviously I was extremely surprised about. And that chicane, because you have to fly over it, there's very little control of the car. And obviously he hit it and retired, so, you know, it was just a very disappointing finish, really.
So one McLaren out, but these two McLarens are still waging war over third place. The white Schnitzer car of JJ Leto, the championship leader. The blue and orange Golf car of Jean-Marc Gounon fighting over third place. JJ Leto working away at the wheel. He's got one of the little Porsches to pass. He passes him going into that final corner. And he's fighting the wheel. He's spun. He's spun. JJ Leto spins. I didn't see if he had a little tap from behind from Jean-Marc Gounon. Whatever happened, Leto is in the gravel. He's trying to find a gear. Gounon's gone through into third place. He's found reverse gear. JJ Leto back on the circuit. JJ Leto goes. He's still fourth, but he's very unhappy. Mercedes 1 and 2, McLaren's 3 and 4. Schnitzer car of JJ Leto, the championship leader. The blue and orange Golf car of Jean-Marc Gounon fighting over third place. JJ Leto working away at the wheel. He's got one of the little Porsches to pass. He passes him going into that final corner. And he's fighting the wheel. He's spun. He's spun. JJ Leto spins. I didn't see if he had a little tap from behind from Jean-Marc Gounon. Pierre-Henri Raffanel. There's Leto out of the car, sliding into that awkward central seat. Goes Steve Soper, with Leto helping him with his seatbelts. And that is Chris Goodwin waiting to take over from Gary Ailes. Their car now lying 8th. But let's hear from JJ Leto.
JJ, we saw you spin. Can you tell us what happened?
Yeah, Gunnar just hit me in the back, you know. Very simple.
There was definitely contact.
You know, it's not a place to spin, you know, without the hitting. It was not clear that he hit me in the back.
Well, now we can see a replay. The two McLarens are nose to tail. They're lapping the little Porsche. Gounon locks up his brakes, hits Leto, and spins him round. Let's hear Jean-Marc Gounon's version.
He knew that I was there, and when we had overtaken in a GT2 car, you go inside, and after you go straight outside to take the corner, and I jump inside. But for sure, it was a bit too short. But I thought he knew that I was there, and I was quicker because I was.
Make of that what you will. I never did it miss. But Gounon's car, with Pierre-Henri Raffanel at the wheel now, is in third place. There it was, just ahead of the little yellow Lotus of Jean-Denis Delatraz, and they're now fighting over over that third place. The Lotus has come through very well, and this is the Lotus coming into the attack. Once again, they're lapping one of those little Porsches. They go into the final corner. The McLaren moves across on the Lotus, and now it's Raffanel's turn to spin. And off into the gravel goes Jean-Denis Delatraz in the Lotus. And the Lotus's race seems to be run. But there is Steve Soper. Steve Soper is now third, and instantly pulling away from Pierre-Henri Raffanel. Off goes one of the GT1 Porsches. That's Gerd Ruch's car. He's the third driver in that car, shared with Capelli and Baldi. Spins through 360, 720 degrees almost. The gravel going everywhere at the chicane. He's back onto the circuit, over the curves. Look at the gravel on the road. So much of the gravel which is on the sides of the road to slow the cars down when they go off has now made its way onto the track itself. It must be very, very slippery there indeed. And Gerd Ruch still scattering kitty litter onto the track as he makes his way slowly onwards. I don't think all is right with that car. He's still driving it very, very slowly as the rest of the field go funneling by. In fact, he's a bit of a mobile chicane, is Gerd Ruch, trying to keep out of people's way as he scatters his gravel on his way back to the pits. There's one of the yellow Marcoses going past him, and Gerd Ruch making his way, I think, back to the pits with something that is obviously not right with that car. One of the yellow Lotuses coming up behind him now, storming by, going very much more quickly, and he can't stop. He goes straight on. Gerd Ruch off. Once more, that Porsche is in the gravel, and surely now he's going to call it a day. Meanwhile, the battle for third place seems to be as quick as Jean-Marc Gounon, even if he also can say that he's not quite as wild. Now he's looking at the inside. Peter Cox under braking for the chicane, and he spins! They both spun. Both the McLarens have spun a great spurt of mud from the rear wheels of Peter Cox's car as he gets going, and the other one that's not going as well. Both those McLarens restart. They've both had a spin, and they've both restarted. That's how hard these cars are fighting. It may be a 4-hour endurance race, but every inch of this battle at Nürburgring is a fierce one. We're seeing it again as they follow Steve Soperin almost side by side under braking. Peter Cox looking at the inside. He spins, he nudges Pierre-Henri Raffanel. He spins quickly. Raffanel goes off out of the picture, but he spins too. And look at that leading Mercedes, which had to go over the curves. We're seeing it from Schneider's viewpoint, and he sees the two McLarens tangling in front of him. He goes hard on the brakes, steers over the curves, because he doesn't want to jeopardise his lead with this battle of the McLarens nerfing him off. That's Perry McCarthy coming out of the pits. He's had a stop-go penalty, apparently for overtaking under a yellow flag. We ride with Bernd Schneider. In front of him is the French-entered Dams Pénos with Frank Lagorce at the wheel, the black one. It's now in a creditable 8th place. And Lagorce is spinning. Lagorce has spun. Oh, Peter Cox so nearly hit him. Once more, a car spins in front of the leading Mercedes of Bernd Schneider. Schneider manages to avoid it at that time. That was very nearly bad news for Peter Cox, who must have missed that car by about an inch. But he's restarted. He's kept his 8th place. We've still got Justin Bell. There he is, lying 3rd in GT2. But let's look at Bernd Schneider's eye view once more. He sees the Pénos spinning off to his left. He keeps close over to the right. Another of the Pénoses has spun. That's Perry McCarthy's car, which is now limping into the pits. There's damage at the back of that car, and that won't be good news. He's knocked the cameraman down. That's the 4th place Golf McLaren in. Raffanel getting refueled. He's staying in the car. Also coming in, the 2nd place Mercedes. Nannini's done another stint. Thiemann is ready. And Raffanel leaving. Oh, he's knocked the cameraman down. He's run over the cameraman. Look, he clouts the German cameraman. I think he's all right, but that is an occupational hazard when you're producing television programs from a crowded pit lane in an endurance race in the FIA GT Championship. Now that's the leading GT2 Viper, Philippe Gache and Olivier Beretta. They've led GT2 ever since the start of this race, fucking off. And there's our new GT2 leader, Claudia Hurtgen in the Rook GT2 Porsche. Gary Ailes watching the race. Of course, his teammate Chris Goodwin is still doing well in that Parabolica McLaren. And some of the teams are wheeling out wet weather tyres. The weather looks threatening to me, but we haven't got any rain at this side of the circuit yet anyway, but they're prepared. Here comes Pierre-Henri Raffanel. We're seeing this replay. That's a mirror coming off. Mirror bouncing down the road. It's come off Pierre-Henri Raffanel's McLaren. I'm not surprised after some of the bumping that car's gone through. And look, there's a marshal running across the road. The cars are coming down over that brow at about 160, 170 miles an hour. But he simply kicks the mirror ahead of him as he runs across the road. The French-entered Pénos is in the pits, still in 8th place. That's Eric Bernard and Frank Lagorce. And what about the GT1 Porsches? This is Bob Wallach and Yannick Dalmas. That's Rocky Augustus Callaway Corvette. That's stopped. And off goes the 8th placed Collard von Gartzen Porsche, ploughing on as it regains the circuit. Clouds of earth onto the track, but they're going to press on, and still GT2 Porsches, everyone in the Mercedes pit, everybody in the team waiting and hoping that this first victory is going to come at last. That's Rocky Augustus Callaway McLarens have fought.
Celebrations. Let's join Tony Jardine now for his look at some other leading championships.
The 1997 World Rally Championship started at a wet Monte Carlo in January with Armin Schwartz in the new Malcolm Wilson Team Ford Escort. Defending world champ Tommy Mackinnon's Mitsubishi fared better than teammate Uwe Nettel. World Rally cars were debuting. Here, double world champion Carlos Sainz. 1995 world champion Colin McRae started his title challenge to Subaru in the topsy-turvy winter world high above Monaco. Centre diff problems made the car highly nervous. 1996 champ Tommy Mackinnon fared no better as he gunned his Mitsubishi into deep snow on the left. German Armin Schwartz was the first to damage a World Rally car in action. No, says co-driver Girardet, but yes, look at Carlos Sainz's beautiful car control, helped by his canny tyre choice in the bewildering conditions. The same changing conditions which later caused Colin McRae's sad exit on what he thought were dry roads, but in parts were now glassy under the steely sky. Challenge over for Colin McRae and Nicky Grist. Belgian star Freddie Loire lost his grip on the route, taking out a signpost. And then he took it out on the crowd. In a sensational three-way fight for victory, Mäkinen threw it into the rocks at high speed as Carlos Sainz grabbed second for Ford. Hugely popular Italian Piero Liati, competitive throughout, powered his Subaru to his first ever Monte Carlo rally victory and significantly his first World Championship win. The next round, Sweden in February, and Mother Nature decided it was spring as Kenneth Eriksson's Subaru and Thomas Radstrom's Toyota water ski the melting waterway. Dilemma for the World Rally teams as the snow returned, but Carlos Sainz was happy with the handling of his Ford Escort. Conditions changed by the hour. Some stages were packed with ice and surprises as Armin Schwartz found out over the crest, sliding into rocks. After his retirement on the Monte, and despite Subaru leading the manufacturer's title, McRae was flying. Tyre choice was critical as studs were pulling out of the tyres in the higher temperatures, causing agonising moments for McRae and Nicky Grist. A silly one that, said Grist afterwards. Patchy gravel and mud tore at the thin snow tyres, sending the Scotsman's Subaru down the escape road. Through sheer speed and skill, McRae hauled himself into a narrow lead, only to lose it with a heart-stopping spin in fifth gear. The Subaru dropped to fourth as his tyres lost more teeth. McRae recovered, speed unabated. And in a fabulous three-way fight, Mäkinen's Mitsubishi squeaked into third place despite his fortuitous 360 snow fight. Tommy receiving another ticking off from co-driver Harjan. Sweden's world star Kenneth Eriksson was first place hero for Subaru, but Sainz went away, leading the Drivers' Championship. By contrast, the billiard table surface at French Grand Prix track Magny-Cours hosted the third round of the Porsche Pirelli Super Cup. French Porsche specialist Jean-Pierre Malchet held first place from pole position, whilst number 10 Patrick Heisman takes third from Dominic Dupuis. Guest driver twice Monaco Formula 3 winner Alain Ferté held fifth. As the supercars rushed towards Adelaide hairpin at 160 mph, the two Patricks, Heisman and Simon, are at each other's throats again. They clashed at Imola. Dutchman Heisman edging past Simon's Porsche number 27. Close with a high-octane rating, the drivers always push to the limit and sometimes beyond. Watch Harold Gross mistiming his pass on Toyne Oosterbosch. Both drivers were incredibly lucky. Oosterbosch smashing into the concrete retaining wall. Gross gyrates past and the two make contact yet again as Gross's car flames out. The German took time to eject, but a relieved Oosterbosch gave the thumbs-up sign rather than the clenched fist. For runner Suke Takagi, the Tyrrell test driver, was desperate to impress his watching team boss and got out of shape and into the kitty litter. He recovered. Is he ready for F1, Ken? VIP guest driver skier Luc Alphon couldn't resist the shortest route round the markers, rejoining safely. But at the front, Patrick Heisman stayed ahead of his rival Patrick Simon. Third was Jean-Pierre Malchet, who admitted to driving carefully, with Dominic Dupuis fourth ahead of Olivier Mattei. Flying Dutchman Heisman gets his pit all excited after 15 frantic laps, taking his first Porsche Super Cup win of the season.
Tony Jardine reporting. Back here at the Nürburgring, the Formula 3000 cars are ready to go, minds of the Supernova team. It was a happy enough scene at Silverstone in round one. Highly rated Riccardo Zonta living up to his billing with a dominant performance. Riccardo enjoying the champagne, but events since then have left a sour taste. Zonta crashed in both Po and Helsinki, and to make matters worse, he was then stripped of his points from Silverstone. The FIA deciding his gearbox setup had breached their regulations. He was at their regulation table. That's 30-year-old Danish driver Tom Christensen. And third on the grid will be the ever-cheerful Jason Watt. He missed the last race in Helsinki after this huge crash in practice. Once again, some of the 34 drivers will miss out with just 26 cars.
There he is, getting ready to start from the pit lane. That's Emanuele Clerico. They're on the grid now, and they're away. Zonta and Christensen get away, banging wheels. Laurent Redon squeezing between de Richebourg and Max Wilson. but they're all away, and as they come down, Wilson, but they're all away, and as they come down to the first corner, in the middle, it's Christensen on the left of your picture, number 3. That's Ricardo Zonta. Zonta takes the lead. Christensen is in second place. Montoya is off, Redon is spinning, Gareth Rees went off there as well, and Redon now beached on the curb, and look at the spray. Visibility is absolutely impossible here as Zonta leads. That's Redon still beached on the curb at the first corner as the marshals go to his aid, but Ricardo Zonta it is who leads. Christensen is second, Jason Watt a splendid third, Max Wilson the Brazilian is in fourth place. Then it's Gonzalo Rodriguez, but it's the visibility that's the problem, and that's a huge advantage if you happen to be in the lead. Ricardo Zonta looking good, the white car moving up, that's Montoya, despite that spin. We see it again, Montoya and the white car going understeering straight off onto the mud and the grass. Gareth Rees follows him, Redon spins, but Montoya has recovered from that moment and is now working his way magnificently up through the field. And Redon now does get underway once more. He didn't need the services of the big green truck. He's back in the race at the very tail of the field. Now, at the chicane, oh, that's Montoya sliding his way in, and once again Gareth Rees following him. Gareth Rees's front wing looking extremely loose as Zonta leads. Christensen still in second place, but Christensen is being attacked by Jason Watt as they come over the brow of the hill, coming down. Jason Watt on the left of your picture in the black car. The silver car is Christensen. Can Watt get inside? Watt, I think, has made it. No, he hasn't. Christensen holds on to that second place, but a great battle. Christensen, Watt and Wilson battling over second place. The conditions are absolutely terrible here at the Nürburgring, but these young men are fighting on for Formula 3000 glory. Ricardo Zonta pulling away. We see once again Montoya, who's staging this magnificent recovery, going straight over the curves, keeps his foot well down. Look at the flapping wing on the front of Gareth Rees's car as Gareth Rees follows him. And on through the murk they go. Gonzalo Rodriguez is still fifth. Montoya is in that sixth place. Ahead now of Sohail Ayari with Rees eighth. Rui Aguas is ninth. Cyril Sauvage 10th. Then it's Pedro Cachero. Dino Morelli, who started in 16th place, is already up to 12th. The Irishman driving a storming race. And the visibility is not getting any better. In fact, I think the rain is getting worse. A lot of water on the circuit. That's somebody spinning off. That's Sohail Ayari now spins off. Now he's on the grass rather than on the gravel. Is he going to be able to get that car going? He opens his visor, has a little think about it, finds bottom gear, and don't give it too many revs, because then you won't dig yourself a hole. He keeps it on the grass, keeps it away from the gravel. He's easing his way back, and meanwhile Ricardo Zonta is walking away with this race, because he's the only one who can see. As the leader, he doesn't have to eat anybody else's spray, but the second place battle is now really on. Jason Watt alongside, noses ahead of Tom Christensen. Christensen fights back as they go through the long right-hander, which leads onto the start-finish straight. Jason Watt is on the inside, and Watt goes through. They're wheel to wheel as they come down the long straight, but Jason Watt passes his fellow Dane. Tom Christensen is demoted to third. There's Ricardo Zonta, our clear leader, but now Jason Watt into second place. That's the Ayari spin, which we see once more, the yellow flags waving in the background, as if anybody needed to know that it's dangerous, but you can't overtake under a yellow flag. And look at the front wing on Gareth Rees's car. That's not going to stay on that car for much longer. It's flapping around. Spinning in the background is Pedro Cachero, right in front of Dino Morelli. That's going to promote Dino another place. Dino Morelli now up to 10th. And there's the leader at the Dunlop curve. Zonta first, Jason Watt second, Tom Christensen as gently as you possibly can, otherwise the car can swap ends, and now Wilson is attacking. Wilson attacking Tom Christensen, it's not going to do him any good. Wilson spins and spins to a halt right across the road as the rest of the traffic comes through. Max Wilson has to find reverse gear and do a sort of three-point turn in the middle of the racetrack, gets it going again. He's lost a couple of points, and off goes Craig Lowndes. That's the Australian, started 23rd, and I'm afraid he's going nowhere. into lap 4. There's Wilson, he's restarted second. Oh, and Gareth Rees's wing has gone at last. Gareth Rees's wing goes, and Dino Morelli's hit Gareth Rees. And Morelli goes off. That was Dino Morelli, and he's in the car. The front half of the car very badly damaged. The engine's still running hard. Dino Morelli and Gareth Rees have collided. The race goes on, but let's try to see what happened there. Gareth Rees in the yellow car, minus his front wing, moves across to the right of the road, to his right, and Dino Morelli hits him in the spray. He can't see, hits him very hard, and Morelli's car, with the front missing, with no front wheels, with its throttle jammed open, with no brakes and no steering, just accelerates past everybody else. As the wreckage comes to a halt, Morelli's still in that car, and it goes at blinding speed, straight on down the track, clips the back of Cyril Sauvage's car, and goes straight off the road. And we wait to hear news of Dino Morelli. He is still in the cockpit of the car. The marshals are there as we see again that car terrifying speed. Just the back half of the car into the barrier. Gareth Rees, we hear, is okay, and they're going to stop the race. Well, that is a relief. The race has been red flagged. There is Gareth.